Masaganang bagong taon sa ating lahat at magandang umaga sa ating mga press at media partners. Narito po tayo sa press conference ng Philippine Statistics Authority para sa December 2022 Inflation Report. We are pleased to welcome the press and media partners here with us on-site and online today. Ako po si Janine Almeda, ang inyong host for today's press briefing. Bago po natin simulan ang inflation report, gusto po naming ipahayag na ito ay naka-live stream sa ating PSA Facebook page. Updates are also tweeted on the PSA Twitter with the hashtag PHCPI. Ngayon, ikinagagalak ko pong ipakilala si PSA Undersecretary Dennis Mapa, National Statistician and Civil Registrar General, na siyang mag-uulat tungkol sa paggalaw ng mga presyo ng ating bilihin sa Pilipinas itong nakalipas na Desyembre 2022. Ating pakinggan ang report ni Yusek Dennis Mapa.
Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Ang Philippine Statistics Authority ay mag-uulat ng antas ng inflation sa bansa para sa buwan ng Disyembre 2022. Ang headline inflation ng pagtaas ng presyo ng mga produkto at serbisyo sa bansa ay bumilis sa antas na 8.1% nitong Disyembre 2022. Ito ang pinakamataas na naitalang inflation simula noong Nobyembre 2008. Noong Nobyembre 2022, ang inflation ay naitala sa antas na 8.0% at 3.1% naman noong Disyembre 2021. Ang average inflation mula Enero hanggang Disyembre 2022 ay nasa antas na 5.8%. Ang pangunahing dahilan ng mas mataas na antas ng inflation nitong Disyembre 2022 kaysa noong Nobyembre 2022 ay ang mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng food and non-alcoholic beverages. Ito ay may 10.2% inflation at 38.9% share sa pagtaas ng pangkalatang inflation sa bansa. Ang nag-ambag ng malaki sa pagtaas ng inflation ng food and non-alcoholic beverages ay ang mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng mga sumusunod: vegetables, tubers, and cooking bananas at iba pa, partikular ang repolyo na may 32.4% inflation mula sa 25.8% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Bigas na may 3.4% inflation mula sa 3.1% inflation noong Nobyembre, at fruits and nuts tulad ng saging na may 7.6% inflation mula sa 6.2% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Ang pangalawang commodity group na nag-ambag ng mas mataas na antas ng inflation nitong Disyembre 2022 ay ang restaurants and accommodation services na may 7.0% inflation at 24.8% share sa pagtaas ng pangkalatang inflation sa bansa. Ito ay dahil sa mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng restaurants, cafe and the like na may 7.0% inflation mula sa 6.5% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Ang pangatlong dahilan ng pagtaas ng inflation nitong Disyembre 2022 ay ang housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels na may 7.0% inflation at 11.0% share sa pagtaas ng pangkalatang inflation sa bansa. Ito ay dahil sa mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng mga sumusunod: LPG na may 1.8% inflation mula sa negative 2.9% inflation noong Nobyembre, at kahoy na panggatong na may 6.8% inflation mula sa 6.0% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Nakaambag din sa pagtaas ng inflation ang bayad sa tubig na may negative 1.1% inflation mula sa negative 1.4% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Pagdating naman sa overall inflation nitong Disyembre 2022, ang pangunahing nag-ambag ay ang food and non-alcoholic beverages na may 10.2% inflation at 48.1% share. Ang mga pangkat ng pagkain na pangunahing nag-ambag sa inflation ng food and non-alcoholic beverages ay ang mga sumusunod: Vegetables, tubers, cooking bananas at iba pa, partikular ang sibuyas na may 32.4% inflation. Meat and other parts of slaughtered land animals gaya ng manok na may 7.4% inflation. At sugar, confectionery and desserts tulad ng refined sugar na may 38.8% inflation. Ang pangalawang commodity group na may pinakamalaking ambag sa pangkalatang inflation ay ang housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels na may inflation na 7.0% at 18.7% share sa pangkalatang inflation. Ang mga pangunahing nagambag sa inflation ng housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels ay ang mga sumusunod. Kuryente na may 20.1% inflation. Renta sa bahay na may 4.0% inflation. At kahoy na panggatong na may 6.8% inflation. Ang transport ang ikatlo sa may pinakamalaking ambag sa pangkalatang inflation nitong Disyembre 2022. Ang commodity group na ito ay nagtala ng 11.7% inflation at 13.2% share. Ang mga pangunahing nag-ambag sa inflation ng transport ay ang mga sumusunod. Other passenger transport by road tulad ng pamasahe sa jeep na may 13.5% inflation. Diesel na may 40.3% inflation at gasoline na may 11.3% inflation. Sa 13 commodity groups, 9 ang nagtala ng mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo nitong Disyembre 2022. Ito ay ang mga sumusunod. Food and non-alcoholic beverages na may inflation na 10.2%. Alcoholic beverages and tobacco na may 10.7% inflation. Clothing and footwear na may 3.9% inflation. Housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels na may 7.0% inflation. Furnishings, household equipment, and routine household maintenance na may 4.8% inflation. Health na may 3.1% inflation. Recreation, sport, and culture na may 3.9% inflation. Restaurants and accommodation services na may 7.0% inflation. At personal care and miscellaneous goods and services na may 4.5% inflation. Samantala, nagpakita ng pagtaas ng presyo ngunit sa mas mabagal na antas nitong Disyembre ang transport na may 11.7% inflation. Nanatili naman sa kanilang antas ng inflation noong Nobyembre 2022 ang mga sumusunod. Information and communication na may 0.7% inflation. Education services na may 3.6% inflation at financial services na may 0% inflation. Samantala, ang core inflation sa bansa ay bumilis din sa antas na 6.9% nitong Disyembre 2022. Noong Nobyembre 2022, ang core inflation ay naitala sa antas na 6.5% at 1.8% naman noong Disyembre 2021. Pagdating sa National Capital Region, ang inflation nitong Disyembre 2022 ay tumaas sa antas na 7.6% mula sa 7.5% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Noong Disyembre 2021, ang inflation sa National Capital Region ay naitala sa 2.1%. Ang pangunahing dahilan ng pagtaas ng antas ng inflation sa National Capital Region ay ang mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng restaurants and accommodation services na may 9.5% inflation at 46.4% share nitong Disyembre 2022. Ito ay dahil sa mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng restaurants, cafe and the like na may 9.5% inflation mula sa 8.8% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Ang pangalawang commodity group na nagpakita ng mas mataas na antas ng inflation sa National Capital Region ay ang housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels na may 4.0% inflation at 42.4% share sa pagtaas ng inflation nitong Disyembre 2022. Ito ay dahil sa mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng LPG na may 3.0% inflation mula sa negative 2.1% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Sa mga pangkat ng pagkain sa National Capital Region, nagpakita ng mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ang mga sumusunod. Bigas na may 1.1% inflation. Mais na may 21.2% inflation. Flour, bread, and other bakery products, pasta products, and other cereals tulad ng pandesal na may 13.2% inflation. Fruits and nuts tulad ng saging na may 13.3% inflation. Vegetables, tubers, cooking bananas at iba pa gaya ng repolyo na may 49.6% inflation. Sugar, confectionery and desserts gaya ng peanut butter na may 26.9% inflation at ready-made food product and other food products not elsewhere classified tulad ng infant formula na may 12.9% inflation. Samantala, nagpakita naman ng mas mabagal na pagtaas ng presyo ang mga sumusunod. Meat and other parts of slaughtered land animals gaya ng baboy na may 4.9% inflation. Fish and other seafood, partikular ang makarel na may 7.3% inflation. Fish, other dairy products and eggs, partikular ang itlog na may 13.5% inflation. At oils and fats gaya ng cooking oil na may 22.4% inflation. Sa mga lugar sa labas ng National Capital Region, ang inflation nitong Disyembre 2022 ay umakyat sa antas na 8.2% mula sa 8.0% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Noong Disyembre 2021, ang inflation sa mga lugar sa labas ng National Capital Region ay naitala sa 3.4%. Sa mga lugar sa labas ng National Capital Region, ang pangunahing dahilan ng mabilis na antas na inflation ay ang food and non-alcoholic beverages na may 10.0% inflation at 52.8% share sa pagtaas ng inflation nitong Disyembre 2022. Ito ay dahil sa mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng mga sumusunod. Vegetables, tuber, cooking bananas at iba pa, partikular ang repolyo na may 29.3% inflation mula sa 22% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Bigas na may 3.8% inflation mula sa 3.4% inflation noong Nobyembre at milk, other dairy products and eggs, partikular ang powdered milk na may 9.2% inflation mula sa 8.5% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Ang pangalawang nag-ambag sa pagtaas ng inflation sa mga lugar sa labas ng National Capital Region ay ang mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng restaurants and accommodation services na may 6.0% inflation at 15.5% share. Ito ay dahil sa mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo sa restaurants, cafe and the like na may 6.0% inflation mula sa 5.7% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Ang pangatlong commodity group na nag-ambag sa pagtaas ng antas ng inflation sa mga lugar sa labas ng National Capital Region nitong Disyembre 2022 ay ang housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels na may 8.1% inflation at 8.8% share sa pagtaas ng pangkalatang inflation sa bansa. Ito ay dahil sa mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ng LPG na may 1.5% inflation mula sa negative 3.2% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Nakaambag din sa pagtaas ng inflation ng mga sumusunod. Renta sa bahay na may 3.6% inflation mula sa 3.5% inflation noong Nobyembre at kahoy na panggatong na may 6.8% inflation mula sa 6.0% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Sa mga pangkat ng pagkain sa labas ng National Capital Region, nagpakita naman ng mas mabilis na pagtaas ng presyo ang mga sumusunod. Bigas na may 3.8% inflation, flour, bread and other bakery products, pasta products and other cereals tulad ng burger buns na may 10.4% inflation, milk, other dairy products and eggs gaya ng powdered milk na may 9.2% inflation, fruits and nuts gaya ng mangga na may 6.5% inflation. Vegetables, tubers, cooking bananas at iba pa na may 29.3% inflation. Sugar, confectionery, and desserts tulad ng brown sugar na may 40.9% inflation. At ready-made food and other food products not elsewhere classified gaya ng dahon ng laurel na may 8.6% inflation. Samantala, nagpakita naman ng mas mabagal na pagtaas ng presyo ang mga sumusunod. Mais na may 26.4% inflation. Meat and other parts of slaughtered land animals gaya ng baboy na may 8.0% inflation. Fish and other seafood gaya ng dilis na may 6.1% inflation. Oils and fats tulad ng cooking oil na may 18.5% inflation. Ang pinakamataas na inflation sa mga riyon sa labas ng National Capital Region nitong Disyembre 2022 ay nasa Region 6 or Western Visayas na nagtala ng 10.5% inflation mula sa 9.6% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Samantala, ang pinakamababang inflation sa mga riyon sa labas ng National Capital Region nitong Disyembre 2022 ay sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao na nagtala ng 6.3% inflation mula sa 6.0% inflation noong Nobyembre 2022. Kung iahambing sa inflation na naitala sa mga riyon sa labas ng National Capital Region noong Nobyembre 2022, 11 riyon ang nagtala ng mas mataas na inflation nitong Disyembre 2022. Ito ang mga riyon na may kulay blue. Samantala, 4 na riyon naman ang nagtala ng mas mababa na inflation nitong Disyembre 2022 at ito ang mga riyon na may kulay green. Ang Calabarzon ay nanatili sa kanyang antas ng inflation noong Nobyembre 2022 na nasa 7.1%. Ang inflation sa bottom 30% income households ay nananatiling nasa 2012 base year. Simula sa susunod na buwan, ang inflation para sa bottom 30% income households ay ibabatay na sa 2018 base year. Nitong Disyembre 2022, ang inflation sa bottom 30% income households ay naitala sa 7.9%. Ito ay mas mataas kumpara sa inflation noong Nobyembre 2022 na nasa 7.7% habang 3.3% naman noong Disyembre 2021. Ang average inflation para sa bottom 30% income households mula Enero hanggang Disyembre 2022 base sa 2012 base year ay nasa 5.3%. Ang mga pangunahing dahilan ng mas mataas na inflation para sa bottom 30% income households nitong Disyembre 2022 ay ang mga sumusunod na commodity groups. Food and non-alcoholic beverages na may 8.4% inflation at 73.9% share. Restaurants and miscellaneous goods and services na may 6.2% inflation at 12.4% share. At clothing and footwear na may 3.9% inflation at 4.9% share. Ang monthly data ng inflation para sa all-income households at bottom 30% income households ay iyong makikita sa website ng Philippine Statistics Authority. Maaari itong ma-access sa mga links na naka-flash sa screen o sa pamamagitan ng pag-scan ng QR codes na nasa screen. Dito nagtatapos ang aking paglalahad ng antas ng inflation o pagtaas ng mga presyo ng bilihin at serbisyo sa bansa para sa buwan ng Disyembre 2022. Ang Philippine Statistics Authority ay lubos na nagagalak sa inyong paglahok sa press conference tungkol sa inflation sa bansa. Salamat at magandang umaga sa ating lahat.
Maraming salamat, Undersecretary Mapa, para sa ulat ng December 2022 inflation. Ngayon, bago po natin simulan ang ating question and answer segment, nais po naming ipahayag na ang press kits para sa ating online participants ay aming po ipapadala via email. At ipapamigay naman po dito ang press kits para sa ating mga on-site participants. Para sa mga nais pong magtanong, you can use your raise hand feature to be recognized and pakigamit po ang questions po via chat box. Kapag kayo po ay natawag upang magtanong, please state your name and organization. Ngayon ay handa na po tayo para sa ating question and answer segment. Ms. Kai Ordinario.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Happy
Morning.
New Year po. Sir, yung sa December na inflation, pwede po ba nating ma-isolate yung rates of increase ng mga Noche Buena items? Were there any increases? How did it contribute to the increase in inflation? Thank you po.
Okay. Yung may mga items, hindi naman lahat na capture sa ating food basket kasi ito yung regular naman na kinukonsume ng ating mga households. Pero may nakita kami na mga items and there were also increases. Ito ang like say ham, no? 250 grams o 1/4 kilo, nagkaroon siya ng annual increase na 14.4% sa Philippines and that is about 16% outside for areas outside NCR. Yung fruit cocktail tumaas ng mga 9.4%. So these are some items, no? But generally kanina nga sa report natin, ang contribution in general is really the food basket. Our food inflation is about 10.6%. And the food inflation contributed 40% of the total inflation for December. So while the Noche Buena items contributed, there were really other items that we were seeing already in the past months that push inflation. So for example, kanina napakita natin yung vegetables, 32.4% inflation. So sa weight ng food basket, palagi kong sinasabi sa past press briefing natin, so rice ang pinakamataas, then yung cereal, followed by meat, fish, and then pang-apat yung vegetables. So medyo malaki yung contribution ng vegetables dito sa ating food inflation, which also contributed substantially sa ating overall inflation for December. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Follow-up question from Ms. Kai.
Sir, na-mention nyo na rin po yung vegetables. Yung sa onion prices po ba, tumataas pa ba? Or is there a slowing down?
Okay, well, the onion, which is part of the vegetable, for December, medyo substantial yung kanyang, the single commodity, no? Substantial yung kanyang contribution sa inflation. It contributed about 0.3 percentage point in the overall inflation, which is the same as rice. Rice also contributed 0.3 percentage point. In terms of prices, we are monitoring, for example, in Metro Manila, we're monitoring 24 different markets, and each market we collect, our data collectors collect prices for five stores per outlet, and we are seeing really during the weeks ng December ang pagtaas ng prices ng onion, no? And we're still tracking together with other commodity items naman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir Andrea.
Good morning, sir. Sir, based on your observations from the field and also base effects, is there a likelihood that inflation has peaked already in December?
Well, the data, first, yung good news is that our seasonally adjusted month-on-month increases, bumagal siya noong December. It's now 0.3. It's still positive, but it is 0.3 compared to November rather, na 0.7, no? And then I think the previous month was 1.0. So yung seasonal adjusted incremental increases pabagal ng pabagal, ano. Also, kung makikita natin doon sa not seasonalized, you will see na from 8.0 to 8.1. Basically, if you do a test, this is not really significant. So we are seeing a slowdown in terms of the incremental increases, both in the raw form and in the seasonal adjusted form. So that's from the numbers, that seems to be a good news, no? However, there are still threats, no? Like for example, sabi ko kanina, yung price of vegetables that contributed really substantial in the inflation, and then also yung mga iba pang food items. So siguro I'll just run down the top 5 groups sa food basket that contributed doon sa 10.6% inflation natin sa food. First, vegetables, it contributed 2.7 percentage point, followed by meat, contributed 1.4 percentage point, sugar, confectionery, and dessert, 1.2 percentage point, fish, 1.1 percentage point, and flour, yung bakery products, that contributed 1.0 percentage point. So, ito yung mga contribution doon sa food items. The numbers are saying that there's a slowdown, but there's still a threat in terms of these items because the weight of the food basket in the overall inflation is quite substantial. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusek Mapa.
Sir, regarding the share or yung share ng red onions dun sa inflation, is this have you seen this kind of contribution from that particular commodity before? Yung 0.3 percentage points.
I will have to look at the
Okay.
time series because, you know, we are tracking 700 plus items. So I will have to look at it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sir Andrea. Yes, Sir Warren from ABS-CBN.
Good morning, Yusek. Happy New
Morning.
Year. Regarding the vegetable inflation, can you discuss that in terms of historical data? Is it the highest since when?
Okay, let's see. Let's look at our time series for vegetables. All right, yung ating vegetables, as I mentioned, ngayong December, no, 32.4. Itong previous, most probably, ano ito, no? Kasi mayroon tayong typhoon eh. So, ganun naman talaga. So, there's effect. Previous month, this is 25.8. And in October, this is 16.0. While it is 32.4 this December, yung 2022 annual average is 7.8%. So if we are looking at it from an annual basis, yung 7.8% na inflation for vegetables, tubers, cooking bananas, and others, hindi naman ito mataas, no? Because we experienced 10.2% in 2020 and also 10.5% in 2018. But if you are looking at it on a month-on-month, the 32% seems to be the highest for quite some time, just for month-on-month. But again, we started the year with negative inflation even in vegetables. If we're looking at it on an annual basis, this is just 7.8%. Thank you.
Can we ask for the actual year for the highest since when? Baka they can check it.
For the month?
For the 32.4%.
Yeah, it's 32.4. Can you go down, Glenn? Okay, it's highest since February 1999, wherein it recorded 44%. On a monthly basis, the 32.4% is the highest since February of 1999.
Thank you, Yusek.
Thank you, Sir Warren. Yes, Ms. Bernadette from GMA.
You said good morning.
Good morning.
Apo. Sir, you mentioned that the inflation is highest since November 2008.
2008.
What was the inflation during November 2008? And sir, kasama po ba dun sa restaurants, cafes, and the like, yung mga karinderya?
Yeah. First question, yung inflation ng November 2008 is 9.1. Yung sa annual naman, kasi kanina nga sinabi ko yung annual natin for 2022 is 5.8. We close it at 5.8. If you compare it annually, ang pinakamataas naman sa 2008 din, wherein inflation annual average was 8.2. So ito yung global height of the global financial crisis. Doon sa second question mo, yes, yung restaurant, cafe, basically these are food consumed outside the household, so kasama yung karinderya. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Bernadette. Yes, Sir Jerome from Reuters.
I was about to ask that.
Similar question. Thank you, sir. We have a question online from our FB Live. Magkano po ba dapat ang budget ng tao per meal?
Depende siguro kung ano yung kinoconsume, ano? Pero kung titingnan natin yung ating minimum basic needs doon sa pag nag-compute tayo ng poverty threshold, mayroon tayong value, but I don't have it now, but it's available sa website natin. But this was based on the 2021 Family Income and Expenditure Survey. Yun talaga yung minimum basic needs, minimum calories, nutrients from our colleagues sa FNRI. And then pinipresyohan lang ng Philippine Statistics Authority. So siguro yun, doon na lang kita i-refer. I don't have the data now. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusek. Yes, ma'am.
Hi sir, good morning po.
Good
This is Keisha from Business World. Regarding sa core inflation, highest since when po yung 6.9 na core inflation in December? And i-release po ba ng PSA ang backcasted 2018 base prices ng historical ng core inflation na rate?
We release it? Yeah, we have that already in the website. Ano? So yung core inflation natin, 6.9. I'm just looking at it 2019, no? Apat lang na taon yung nasa screen ko ngayon. 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And 6.9 is the highest so far. I will have to ask the staff to check on the longer series. Pero itong average natin sa core for 2022, kasi we have to look at it, no, from the annual average value. So for core inflation, the average for 2022 is 3.9. Last year, this is 3.0 in 2021, and then in 2020, 3.4, 2019, 3.4.
Thank you, Yusek. Other questions? Yes, Sir Warren.
Hello, Yusek. Regarding rice inflation, we noticed that it's accelerating now. Do you think it's going to become a problem moving forward?
Yeah, we noted, no, for quite some time this is like flat, even negative, near zero. But we saw in the previous months that it's increasing. And I understand mix naman ito, no, kasi iba-iba yung mga rice variety, yung ating classification. So we have the regular milled, well milled, and special. And I understand yung ang kanyang pagtaas ay doon sa ito na yung data. Yung ating regular rice, regular milled, no, 1 kilo, ang annual growth niya is monthly is 0.2. Ang mataas ay doon pumasok sa regular rice, regular and well milled rice. Ito yung classification na tumaas. In particular, nakita natin kanina outside NCR, doon pumatak ang medyo mataas na presyo. We saw that it's about 54 pesos per kilo. Yeah, 54 pesos per kilo versus the previous year, which is 52.5. This is for the special rice. For the regular, for areas outside NCR, December, about 40 pesos per kilo. In the previous year, December 2021, this is just about 38 pesos per kilo. So tumaas siya ng 4.0%. So yung pagtaas ay doon sa areas outside NCR. Dito sa NCR, hindi pa ganun ka taas yung presyo. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusek Mapa. Thank you, Sir Warren. Yes, any other questions?
Good morning po, Bernadette Tinoy po from UNTV po.
Good
Sir,
morning.
may impact po ba ang Kadiwa stores ng DA sa pagbalanse ng presyo ng mga bilihin?
Tinatrack namin itong mga Kadiwa store, particularly dito sa Metro Manila. So yung average, like yung price ng sugar, mayroon kaming tracker naman. So pero sabi ko nga kanina, ang ating presyo kasi average for 24 different outlets. and each outlet would have about 5 stores randomly selected. So parang average siya ng 120 stores scattered all over Metro Manila. So may mga outlets na Kadiwa in the past during the increases sa sugar, tinatrack namin. And we are seeing na mababa nga yung presyo doon. But the PSA is actually averaging it across different stores. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Bernadette. Yes, Ms. Bernadette from GMA.
Sir, with the food inflation driving the month-on-month inflation, or it's the one that's really driving the inflation in the past years, is it high time for the government to really do something about finding ways on how to bring down the prices?
Well, nakita natin ngayon yung ating in this year naman, you will notice kung itatrack natin since January, of course January, February, March medyo mababa pa, and then nag-start siyang mag-pick up April hanggang ngayon. Iba-iba kasi yung sources eh. If you'll notice ng mga middle of this year, ang sources natin fish, sa meat, no? Of course yung sa energy, yung fuel and electricity palagi naman nagko-contribute yun. Pero ngayon ito nag-shift naman siya itong nakaraang 3 buwan dito sa vegetable. So iba-iba kasi yung sources eh. So depende sa policy. Of course the policy handle better as sa ating economic managers. But what we're seeing is that the sources of inflation itong taon, iba-iba yung mga factors. Itong 3 buwan because of the typhoon ay galing siya sa vegetables, but in the past sa iba naman, like ngayon nakita naman natin bumaba na yung meat, bumaba na rin yung fish. Ito problem kung natatrack niyo yung ating data, ito matataas yung contribution dati. So some of these policies actually also contributed to lower inflation for specific items.
Kasi during the early months po, it's really also the fuel prices that's driving the inflation higher. But nag-temper na po yan in the past months. Still mataas pa. We're ending the year with a very high inflation. How is that so?
Well, sabi ko dati nga, 'di ba, yung may mga spillover effects kasi ito, no? So pwede nga na itong rise, for example, yung factor niya, pwede talaga sa transport kasi tumaas yung transport natin eh. And while the inflation for that particular commodity group nag-stabilize na siya, may mga spillover effects siya kasi may mga lags yung ibang yung effect niya sa ibang commodity items, particularly food. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bernadette.
Ted Cordero has a question.
From Sir Ted Cordero from GMA News. Do you expect inflation to slow down next month or will it be higher than December?
As I mentioned kanina, Ted, yung numbers na nakikita namin, both the headline inflation, yung month-on-month incremental increase, let's say if you look at November and December, this is 0.1 percentage point, which if you do a test, statistical test, actually yung 8.0 and 8.1, they are not significant, but of course the sources magkaiba. So mabagal doon ang month-on-month increase. When we look at the seasonal adjusted, nagpapakita din yung seasonal adjusted incremental increase doon sa November ay 0.7, nung December 0.3. So from these numbers, we are seeing that there is a slowdown. This could be a peak. However, on the yung risk naman ay malaki yung contribution pa rin ng pagtaas ng inflation nitong December sa food basket, no? Sabi ko nga kanina 10.6% yung ating food inflation, at yung food basket natin, yun talaga yung malaking weight. So if there is still increases there while we have already let's say slowdown in other commodity groups, there is still a risk that you may have an increase in January. But the numbers is saying that there is a slowdown month on month. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sir Ted, for the question. Sir Warren from ABS-CBN.
You said, just to clarify, the 10.6 is just for food, no? You
Yeah, food.
exclude the non-alcoholic.
Yes, just the food.
Thank you.
Any other questions po? Online or on-site? Okay, if there are no more questions, we will be ending our question and answer segment. And we would like to thank our press and media partners for joining us in the 2022 December Inflation Press Conference. Sana po'y patuloy ninyo po kaming suportahan. You may visit our webpage at www.psa.gov.ph for more updates. Once again, I am Janine Almeda ng Philippine Statistics Authority. Maraming salamat at magandang umaga sa ating lahat.